Well, it looks like the Philadelphia Eagles are not holding him back at all. And we're going to be talking about the linebacker position because Zack Baughn says the second year under Vic Fangio is going to be crazy. And we have a lot more to talk about. So let's get straight into it.
A killer buried, but not dead.
Darren, we better turn around. Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yo, what is going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a fantastic day today. Hope everyone is enjoying their work week. So some things to talk about with the Philadelphia Eagles today. Now, Saquon Barkley, so McManus had some things to say about the situation with Saquon Barkley. Are the Eagles going to hold him back this year? You know, what the organization tells us fans when it comes to these press conferences might be different from what they're really thinking. They don't want to, obviously tell, other teams like what they're doing at positions. And, because in a few months, you're going to have your first game. You know what I mean? So when it comes to Saquon Barkley, I think a down year for him would be like a 16 to 1,800 yard season. That's perfectly fine because it's very hard to replicate an over 2,000 yard season. Okay, no NFL player has done this. With Saquon Barkley's body taking a toll when it comes to a season like that, I think he took off like a few weeks after the Super Bowl, and then pretty much he got back into his regular regimen. Even Nick Sirianni said he's pretty much back to his normal stuff as usual. Nothing has decreased. And you got to remember, too, we need to see how they're going to use A.J. Dillon, but we have to make sure A.J. Dillon stays healthy throughout the season. And we're going to find out who our third running back is going to be as well, because Shipley's going to have a lot of competition in this camp coming up. And if anything happens during the year where they have to decrease his snaps, and obviously Saquon Barkley's not going to hide anything if he feels like he's getting worn down a little bit, the most necessary thing you need Saquon Barkley for is the playoffs. You got to have him for the playoffs. This is why they rested him at the end of last year. He was very fresh going into the playoffs, and probably the best decision we ever made. Saquon Barkley's been the final piece to this offense and has really completed this offense in a lot of ways. The Eagles haven't really had a three-down back since Shady McCoy, realistically, so we'll see how they'll treat the situation. Now, Zack Baughn had some things to say a few days ago regarding the Eagles' defense and how good it's going to be, so this is what he had to say. He said, to think that was all of our first year in that scheme, like what are we going to do next year? Already, I feel like we're miles ahead of where we were last year at this time. Okay. And it makes a lot of sense. And look, Zack Baughn is the apprenticeship of Vic Fangio. And without Vic Fangio, who knows where Zack Baughn would be? Got a nice extension this offseason, which is awesome. But this linebacker core, what it comes down to is the number one thing, philosophy, because realistically, Howie Roseman never touched his position until a year or two ago, where you drafted Nakobe Dean as a third-round pick, and look, he's turned out really well, but he's got to get healthy when you see what's going on with him. Bringing in a nobody like Zack Baughn that only played not even 6 games for the Saints in 4 years, and look what he turned into. And now you're starting to really get the coaching aspect done. Fangio is really producing these guys, especially the young guys or veteran guys, at a really high level. He wants those versatile linebackers that can run sideline to sideline, can drop back in coverage and do some really good things. Even though with Nakobe Dean probably almost losing this entire year because of rehabbing this injury now, like you got Zack Baughn, you got Small Munden, as well from Georgia. I mean, another versatile linebacker that's quick, that's fast, great in coverage. Jahad Campbell, obviously this is a wait and see type thing with him when it comes to him coming back, his timetable to return, whether it's mid-August because he was coming off that minor surgery of the shoulder. They're not in any rush to bring him back. So realistically, I think they're pretty set. The more players that stay in this system, the more they're just going to get better. And obviously, Vic Fangio's coaching has been just astronomical when it comes to production of these guys. Even after the 2023 season, this defense really needed an asshole as a coach. They needed like a hard coach. And I think they got one in Vic Fangio. And this scheme has really transcended to a lot of these guys' skill sets. But as the years are going on now, we're going to the second year of Vic Fangio. They're going to be starting to get guys into this defense that really more fit what Fangio likes to do. Just remember, with Nakobe Dean being out, and obviously Jahad Campbell's going to miss some time, Fangio's going to get to see some of the depth he has at linebacker as well when it comes to linebacker with Small Munden, like I said, Trotter Jr. You know what I mean? So you get to see what you have. You know, I know that we've seen Trotter Jr. a little bit, but God forbid you want to move Jahad Campbell to edge rusher for a couple reps in a game, or you need him as an edge rusher or something like that. He could just throw somebody else at linebacker and boom, you're pretty much all set. Versatility off the charts when it comes to this defense, and it's very exciting. Now we're going to talk about Lane Johnson as well, because he's going into his 13th year, and Lane Johnson says he hasn't really reached his peak. He's almost have reached his peak, but just not there yet. It's almost crazy for a older veteran to say this. I would say the one position we never worry about, that we never even talk about, is right tackle. When we talk about right tackle, we never really have to worry about it because he's been a pillar at that position pretty much for a long time in Philadelphia. You know, and will be here for at least one more year after this year. So throughout the 2026 season, sooner or later, you have to figure out the backup for that position, the future of that position. I think Miles Hinton from Michigan, the 6th-round pick from this past year, it's going to be a project for the next couple of years. I think they're going to build him up to be the starter at right tackle. I'm going to put my name on this and say it's probably going to happen, and we'll see what happens in the near future if he stays healthy. I know that Miles Hinton ended up getting hurt at minicamp. I don't think it was serious or anything. He went to the blue tent and they just kept him out. So it probably was something very, very minor. You know, when it comes to the offensive line, this is the best player you have on your offensive line, in my opinion. Okay. And obviously, because of all the competition at right guard, you have a guy in Lane Johnson now that could help him and work with him, which is a great thing. So anybody that plays between Juergens and obviously Lane Johnson is really going to flourish on the process. So having those two guys at each side is a pretty good thing too. Other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. Would you monitor Saquon snaps? Would you unleash him? How would you treat the situation? How do you feel about the offensive line? And really going into everything else, how do you feel about this defense? How do you feel about the linebacker position? And obviously some of the newcomers on defense. We'll be talking about that more during training camp when the time comes, and we'll be doing our thing. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more Eagles news every single day. Make sure you hit the like button because that helps out tremendously. I'll see you guys on the next one. Shakes, what up, follow slide. Peace out, guys. Peace.